like I'm a teacher, you know. So today we are very, very pleased to present two very special guests and a really lovely book. It's a coming-of-age, on-the-road memoir called 33 Days, Touring in a Van, Sleeping on Floors, Chasing a Dream. It was written by Bill C. Let's give a round of applause. Writing about his life being in the band Divine Weeks on their first tour, and it's pulled from a journal that he kept during that time. Fascinating book for anyone who wants to know what life is truly like on the road. So without further ado, let's give him a round of applause, and yeah, welcome to the stage.
Thanks for everybody for coming. It started out with this journal right here, ragged old journal. It was what I brought with me July 28th, 1987.
That's better.
That's better. And I have to say it is otherworldly to be holding this book now. We're going to try and make this a little different from book signings. Starting by not calling it a book signing. I mean, I just couldn't drag you folks down here and have me like sitting at a table with a pen. We're going to try and do this a little differently, do a little music and video and Anyway, so it's very apropos to be here at Book Soup. This was one of the landmarks, one of my stops in my trips into Hollywood. And, there was Rock and Roll Ralph's and Rodney's Denny's and Club Lingerie and Cat and Fiddle. And early in the book, Raj and I... Hello, Raj. Raj and I take this drive along Sunset, and it's Thanksgiving night. And... first year of college, and we end up on Mulholland Drive, and things had kind of grown desperate. We realized we were living somebody else's dream, not our own. And I used to come into Hollywood to try and stand close enough to these bands, that like the Minutemen and Black Flag and it was Steve Wynn of the Dream Syndicate, and it was Vitas Matere of The Last. And, I just was trying to get a sense of what it was to this mystical thing of touring in a van. It seemed so magical, like going into the hinterlands, to find converts. And, like I said, they were like indie rock teachers, and I was just trying to get a pass onto that highway that seems so off limits. And anyway, so Raj and I, we ended up on the top of Mulholland Drive, a place where, we used to look down on all those shimmering lights, and we used to send our dreams down there. And up until that time, I guess it seemed like something that, there was no space for us. And for some reason that night, it was a good night to make a dare. And I said to him, it just gets to a point where it's either them or us. You just get to that point. And, that was the moment we started the band. And it was the moment, I guess you could say, we seized control of our destiny. And really, this book is not so much about making it, it's about the perils of not even trying, So, anyway, if it's okay, I was gonna read an excerpt, and so we're day one now. It's 7/28/87, 7:05, and I'm pacing around my bedroom, trying to summon the courage to get out of Dodge. So here we go. All right. The time has come to be brave. For the first time in my life, all 22 years of it, I wake up today with this crazy-ass belief if I can just get myself in that van, I might have a chance to make it possible. Today the door opens, the culmination of 3 years of maniacal drive towards a singular goal, to get out of this haunted house and get my band on tour. And it's all I thought about the last 3 years, daydreaming in class, writing out imaginary tour dates, toiling at my windowless shit day job, shuffling papers every day, helping rich men get richer while my dream just sits out there waiting for me to seize it. I'm trying to figure out if I've forgotten something, but really all that's left is the letting go. Pacing around my bedroom, listening to as many songs as I can before I leave, just trying to get my fill of this music that's been my one salvation. Music that staved off the madness surrounding me, kept my heart from closing shut. I'm putting on Let It Be by The Replacements. Unsatisfied is my favorite song right now. When I discovered music, it was like discovering a lifeline. It wasn't a matter of choice anymore. That's what my mom always told me growing up. We had no choice. We're artists. Now that always sounded cool, but until I found music, I was just walking around, dodging bullets. We spent the last few days scrambling around, gathering contact information of bands, promoters, and press to call, and radio stations to drop in on. To the Price Club to buy peanut butter and jelly, bread, crackers, Cheese Whiz, and Cheerios in bulk. Then down to Venice Beach to buy a bunch of stolen calling cards. Then off to Guitar Center with a tall tale about how we're going on a big high-profile tour, promising to play exclusively on whatever gear we can scam off them. Total bullshit. But it worked. They gave us a bunch of free gear, and then the smarmy store manager groups us all together for a picture with one of their moronic sales reps. Man, Guitar Center. Where else can you find a grown man wearing pink spandex pants, a pompadour, and a cheese-eating mustache? Tom Hassey's going to be here in a few to pick me up. He's offered to lay down his credit card and rent the van for us. No one will rent to us because none of us have a credit card. Our friend Ron Jolly was a courier, turned us on to his mechanic who showed us how to disconnect the van's odometer just so we can save on mileage charges. You get something like 500 free miles, so the plan is we'll go to about the 600 mile mark and then disconnect the thing. After the mechanic tells us how to do it, we were all quite pleased with ourselves until he turns to us and says, "But you guys do know it's a federal crime, right?" Now let me make something clear. Divine Waves is not some big arena band on a major label with oodles of cash behind us. You probably never heard of us unless you're one of the few thousand people who pick up the LA Weekly, LA Reader, or BAM every Thursday to check what's happening around town. We're not part of LA's in crowd, and we don't have any hip cachet. One of the earliest bits of press we ever got was, "These guys will grab you by the scruff of your collar and demand attention, despite the fact that they look like 4 college Joes waiting for a bus." It's one of those backhanded compliments we've used as inspiration. This is not just our first tour, it's basically our first time out on our own at all. We're not going by plane or train or bus. We're just throwing 2 old love seats I found in my garage into the back of a Ford Econoline cargo van, putting them face to face to sleep on, and the rest of our stuff we're storing in back. Aside from maybe Springsteen, there's no rock stars for role models. They've all let me down. It's like they all lusted after stardom, and once there, they looked us in the eye and then fled. I've stood there outside after their big arena shows and watched them treat fans like an annoyance, get whisked away in their limos and isolate themselves in their extravagance and wealth, only to moan about it later. I'm done with it. That's what drew me to the do-it-yourself, just get in the van credo pioneered by bands on SST Records. Although we don't sound much like bands like Black Flag, Minutemen, Husker Du, Meat Puppets, and Sonic Youth, we're inspired by their work ethic and aesthetic. Success doesn't come to you, you go to it. Eschew major labels, put out your own records, book your own tours. You don't stay in hotels, you beg from the stage for a floor to sleep on. Create a community. Call like-minded bands, ask to open for them, and promise to help them whenever they come to your hometown. Drop in on college radio stations. Beg people to come down to your shows. No roadies, no high-powered promoters. Black Flag pretty much invented it, and bands like Minutemen taught us how to go out and do it. Mike Watt calls it jamming econo. Musically, we're closer to The Who at Woodstock by way of early R.E.M., but ideologically, more than any other band, the Minutemen are the closest to what Divine Week's core is all about. Egalitarian, working class, politically conscious, smart. Like us, their friendship and loyalty to each other shaped their very essence. Bands like the Minutemen were like indie rock teachers. They showed us in a lot of bands that being indie was a righteous cause, fighting the good fight against bloated, arrogant, and self-important hierarchy of major labels and radio programmers that keep good music off the air and relegate it to garages. Every time we climb on stage, write a song, meet a fan, deal with a booker or a radio programmer, we feel the eyes of the bands that showed us how to do it are watching. We can't let them down. Once I get in that van today, I plan on never going back to school. Raj, same thing. Dave washed his hands of school a few years ago. But for George, it's more complicated. He's got to make a decision whether or not to commit to grad school next year. He needs us to make as big a splash as possible on this tour so he can justify not returning to school in the fall. We're going to play a song.